Hey y'all, hey y'all, hey y'all. It is Friday. This is a short week, and I'm glad it's a short week because I'm exhausted. I don't know if you guys can tell, but like my eyes keep watering. I feel like, ugh, I don't know. It's good. It's good. It's a short week. I think all of the action packedness of this week is caught up. So it's a good thing that it's a short week. I'm super excited though. If you guys can tell, I have a different background today. I'm actually coming to you from the banks of the Rio Grande. It's an inlet of it, but it's still lit nonetheless. So you never know. I heard splashing just a minute ago. Turned around super fast. It was a fish. It was a fish. But you do hear CBP helicopters flying over, so you'll probably hear those a little bit. I'm not in Webb County. I'm actually further up the river. So it's kind of funny. But and I don't have a paddle, so I don't know what we're gonna do. But I do know that Miss Helena is here with us early today.
You better get yourself a paddle, girlfriend. So much going on.
I don't have a paddle. I don't have a, we're gonna be in trouble with no paddle.
Did you think it was a crocodile or something, or an alligator?
I think I thought it was something, that's for sure, but I didn't think it was a fish. It had quite the splash to it. So I was like, oh. Then I laughed at myself because I'm like, I know what is around me, so I know I'm safe, but I still laughed about it.
Well, what are you doing down there? Do tell.
So it's actually I'm actually being fortunate enough to be hosted by Noel Borders. He's the number 1 watermelon producer in the United States, in North America, not just the United States. And so we've been working with him on some stuff, and we're here at his place, and so that we can have a different background. We've got some important people that are rolling in here today. We were here last night with some we were actually here with the Borders are last night, so we got to talk about some of the stuff that's happening here in Texas, and some of the improvements that we're going to be making, and it's exciting to be able to have that seat at the table. So I'm honored that we've come this far, kid. We've come this far. So when we came over here this morning, they said, "Hey, where are you going to do the show?" I said, "Right here." Right here. This is like the most serene looking, and it's not 1,000,000 degrees yet. So we may have to change locations if the sun comes out, but for right now, it's perfect. So I figured I'd take advantage of it.
Yeah, I keep getting these reports that Texas is super hot right now. You guys are on fire. It's like
we certainly were last week. It was 115, 117. Yeah.
Ow.
When it's 100 degrees and it feels like a cold front has come through, that should tell you something.
Yeah, exactly. Well, there's so much work that needs to be done in this country, and I appreciate the fact that you're down there on the border, because that is a huge problem that we have with the influx of all of these illegal aliens that are coming through our southern border, and it has been open for such a long time now. It's so incredibly concerning what is happening down there, and I just appreciate everybody who's down there, who's paying attention, and who's trying to do something to make a difference, because we got to shut this border down. It's too much at this point. I don't know what's going to happen. We just don't have any leadership. We've got feckless leadership that just refuses to do anything to shut that border down. How do you feel about Abbott and his lack of? Well, I don't know how else to put it. Like this man has no integrity at this point. Does he not care what's happening to Texas? I mean, you guys are taking like the brunt of this.
No, we truly are, and I've always been very critical and incredibly hard on Governor Abbott. I've not been his #1 fan by any stretch of the imagination, but the best thing that he's done for Texas is hired Michael Banks, which is who we call the border czar, and because he's doing the work. He's retired CBP. He was the station chief down in South Texas, down in the RGV, and so he's not playing games with these people. So he's making sure the work's getting done. He's physically having his men push people back into the river and saying, "Go back. You're not welcome here. You're not welcome in Texas. If you want to be here, do it the right way." So it's exciting to actually see the work that's being done, that everybody knows should be being done, and to actually know them firsthand, and to say, "Hey, this is what's actually going on." I'm truly honored to have a seat at the table with the borders are, and he's like, a lot of it, and we saw this with Trump also. It's who you surround yourself with, and when you have too many people too many handlers before you can get to the man that knows the information, or that needs the information. There's a lot that gets lost in that, and so that's not an issue that we're having with Michael Banks. He's able to have direct access to the governor, and the governor is now learning things that he should have known before, but for whatever reason, the people that were around him at the time were not allowing him to get that information. So it is, I can at least on the border issue now, right now, I can give Abbott some leeway since April, honestly, because that's when I personally started knowing the borders are, and seeing the work that he's doing, and seeing that it's not just pomp and circumstance, like it's actual stuff that's happening. Now, one of the things that we're seeing here is this weekend, the flotilla, if you will, is going to be being delivered and installed here, and that's it. People are kind of laughing at it. Some people think it's a joke. My favorite is the number of people who think that these are poppable like a balloon. These are the same kind of buoys that are put around our U.S. military ships when they're in foreign ports. So these are not something that can easily be, overcome. It takes quite a bit of work. Of course, as with everything, nothing is impossible. So if they brought out a team
Right.
of trained, Navy SEAL style guys, then probably they could make it happen. But even then, they say it takes the SEALs in ideal conditions about 45 minutes, is what we were told. So, it's that kind of leans a lot. And this is not a permanent solution. This is something that is temporary until we can get the border wall where we need the border wall, which is what some of these discussions have been here. It is making that happen, moving forward with new technology, a different look, if you will. The typical wall that you see everywhere doesn't work everywhere. It works great in Arizona and desertous areas, but it doesn't necessarily work in a river area like what we have here in Texas. So we're really excited to be be able to be at the table. There's a great organization called EarthLock, ERTHLOCK, I think is what it is. And, they've got different tech, and it all includes the technology that needs to go along with the wall, right? What the agents need, what the landowners need, all of those kinds of things. And so it's exciting to see other people's dreams also for how we can fix border security with a different flex, if you will, because border security does. I've said it for as long as I've been publicly speaking, and before then, what works in the RGB doesn't work in El Paso. What works in El Paso isn't going to work in Tucson, or I'm sorry, in Cochise County, Arizona, right? Because they're different terrains, and the landowners have different needs in each area. And in one breath, people will be like, well, the government should just take over that land. And then in the same breath, they're like, I hate federal overreach. And so,
Yeah.
it's balancing
Yeah.
act. It is. So, and people want to do the right thing. They want to make sure that the border is secure. That, when you look at a property like the one that I'm on, you realize that $5 to $10 million a year, $5 to $10 million a year in cleanup and stolen produce and things along those lines, stolen equipment, all of the things that go along with having a farm, a working farm, that can get trampled on from the illegals that are coming through, or DPS or Border Patrol. Even though they're trying to be fragile, if you will, with the farmlands, in the same breath, they also still have a job that they have to do. So when you realize that one single farm is looking about $5 to $10 million annually in waste, they were taking, at the height of things last year, they were having an 18-wheeler a week full of trash that was left over from the illegals that were coming through this property. So when you
Wow.
start looking at those kinds of numbers, and you start putting faces to those kinds of numbers, and locations to those kinds of numbers, that's a different conversation. And I've had people tell me all the time, well, I don't understand it. Why don't they just move? Well, first of all, this land like this has been in families for generations, or they've worked their asses off to get this kind of land, and they produce so much. I mean, I guarantee you that you're going to have a watermelon from this farm before the end of the summer. You know what I mean? So yeah, you know what? How about he just goes ahead
Yeah.
and closes up shop, and then what?
Well, and then
So
then who has to bear these costs, though, Sandra, of this cleanup? How can this farm or these farmers
the landowner.
sustain this? Yeah,
Yep,
I mean,
and
like
that's exactly the problem.
that's
So
crazy to me. And I mean, they're all of their profits are going to clean up and trying to maintain their farm from being destroyed. I mean, that is absolutely crazy to me. I don't understand. Is the federal government ever going to be responsible for, what the destruction has become to these farms and these people who have had these farms in their families for generations? Like,
they
what do you do?
should
Do you
be, but
sue
they
the
probably will not be.
yeah, do you sue the federal government for all the damages that they've allowed to happen because of the open border? This is such a slippery slope that we are on.
Hmm.
And, the government is not being held accountable to the things that they have become responsible for in the destruction of these people's lives and these farms. I just can't even imagine the cost that it takes to, clean up this mess that these migrants make. And to be fair, I mean, I want to be a little sympathetic to the migrants because, they are just searching for a better life and they're being told that we have open borders and that's where all of this influx is coming from. So on some level, I don't, necessarily completely blame them because they've just been told to come here because the border's open and you're going to find, the promised land in America because everything is going to be taken care of for you and
Right.
everything's going to be paid for. So
Right.
on some level they're lied to and then they end up in these cities walking around being homeless because there is no real support and services for these people. And this is what the entire country is dealing with right now, and it's just a complete mess. It's a mess.
It is, and being out here, I've had the honor of getting to come on onto the farm several times and seeing the workers. When you see the workers out there working and stuff, and you realize what all goes into it. If you've ever done a backyard garden, and then you come into a working farm, it's it's completely different. It's completely different. But the cool thing about the Borders Farm is that they pay fair wages.
Yeah.
Every single person that is on this farm is here legally, uh, whether it's through the visa program or they're citizens or they're resident aliens or fill in the blank. They all make a good hunk of change, and that kind of leads to the conversation. Why would people be farming? Because why would people come into the country illegally and have to give over half of their paycheck? It's like 2/3 of their paycheck has to go back to the cartel when you have the opportunity to do it right. Get the paperwork done and make a decent living for yourselves. Because when I told my son what the actual wages were, because Alex is 18, we're like, hey, we need you to get off your butt and do something. And so I was choosing. I was like, hey, I got a friend. Alexander loves watermelon. Like, that is his most favorite treat in the entire planet. So that's where this conversation was coming from. And I told him what they were making. He goes, well, hell, mom, I'll go pick some watermelon for that kind of money. But these are the full conversations that most of America doesn't realize or doesn't get to have the conversation or the opportunity to. And so to be able to be at the table to have that conversation and make it a national conversation is just it's really a great honor. These people are amazing patriots. They've become really good friends of mine and Walter. So I've really enjoyed getting to know them and to kind of see what their operation is about, and how watching the way they interact with everyone. I mean, from the watermelon picker all the way up to CEOs from other multi-million-dollar companies. They're just very humble people, and you wouldn't know who they were talking to because they treat everybody fairly. They treat everybody equally. They're truly and treat other people the way that you want to be treated. And I can honestly say that that's exactly how this operation has been working. And so it's really kind of cool. And I think that a lot of the problem with all along our border, from Brownsville all the way over to El Paso, and a trek, I should say, I've met several times in the last several years, is that you get to see the beauty of each part of the border. And yeah, there's some parts that suck, but you know what? There's some parts that suck of your hometown too. So it's so nice though and refreshing
Yeah, I
to
bet.
get to see the stories and get to know the people and get to be a part of their story also, and share their story with so many people. But more importantly, to bring the awareness that these towns need people. They do. Even if you just come to visit, come by, get a bite to eat. There's this really awesome little hole in the wall place in Comstock that we stopped at the other day. I had to go to the bathroom so bad, and that was the only place that was open. So I said, "Well, let's get a bite to eat." And man, we started talking. They do a whole bunch of programs for wounded warriors, and it's these little tiny hole in the wall places that most of America just drives right on past, and they go to. Oh well, you know what? We'll be in a big city in about another, I don't know, 45 minutes. We'll go and get something to eat at Applebee's or fill in the blank. Stop at the mom and pop places
Yeah.
and sit down. They're quick to start a conversation with you. You don't even have to try. So because they love people also. So get out there and explore. It's the summertime. Don't stop at the big places. Stop at the little places. You're not going to regret it. And the food is always absolutely stellar. If you had to be at a mom and pop place and be like, I'm not coming back here. So, Miss Helena, now
Yeah.
tell me about
I can only
what
imagine how great it must be.
you know what days
Sorry.
like today when I'm just exhausted. I'm just like, oh, what do I do? I just want to go back to bed. But then
Yeah.
you just get to be a part, and it makes it worth it. The exhaustion is worth it. I promise. I promise. I promise. So the pay
Well,
sucks, but
I
the
mean, every
exhaustion's
day
worth it.
there's something, something to pay attention to or work on or work towards or help with. And gosh, it's like clean up on aisle 3 continuously, right? We're constantly trying to
Absolutely.
do everything that we can to, I don't know. I mean, for me, it's kind of, we've moved into the phase of trying to do our best to do as much damage control as possible. And really, what I have come to realize with the Jan 6 community, especially, is the best way that we can do anything to help these families and the Jan Sixers is try to do everything that we can to raise money for them. And one thing that we have been working on so tirelessly is bringing on this national commissary fundraising campaign through the Yellow Ribbon campaign, which we started when we organized the yellow ribbons at CPAC, and then the purchase of the American Gulag book so that we could get a copy delivered to every member of Congress. And throughout this entire process, what we have seen is the biggest need right now, an immediate thing that we can do to kind of relieve these families a little bit of this financial burden for them is to do everything that we can to also give these Gen Sixers, the men and the women that are locked up, that have been in these jails for a really long time, and those that are serving their sentences now, the ability to be able to
Oh, we lost your audio there all of a sudden, Helena.
while we have, sorry about that, I don't
It's
know what
okay.
happened, while we have an amazing community that is really stepped up to try to do everything that they can to raise money, we still fall exceptionally short every single month. So it has been bugging me for such a long time. So I moved to back to DC, as you know, for the summer to try to do everything that I could to attend trials, sentencing hearings, go to the prayer vigil, do visitation. I have a visitation today with 2 of the Jan 6ers, and I'm very excited about that because I've been here for a
That's
really long
awesome.
time, and I'm just now being able to visit. It's such a process, and uncharted waters of trying to like navigate all of this and figure it out. But the Yellow Ribbon Commissary National Fundraising Campaign is something that is super near and dear to my heart because I've been screaming from the rooftop for months. We've got to figure out how we can raise money. We got to figure out how we can take some of this burden off of the families. And we finally brought this on board just this last week. We have yet to put out a press relief. We've kind of done a soft launch. We got a little bit of pushback because we were using a WinRed processor, and everybody's got their, things about WinRed. So we
Everyone's got
went
an
ahead
opinion.
and we got a donor box. So well, nobody complained about how they're going to donate, and they can also do so by sending a letter. I'm sorry, a check to the Super PAC, Patriot Action PAC. You don't necessarily have to use the donor box if you just want to go ahead and send a letter, and then we won't accrue the cost because it takes money to raise money. There's
Mm-hmm.
processing fees that we have to accrue from that Stripe, and then when we forward the money to the first and foremost expert that we have helping us with this commissary fundraising campaign, she has just been a champion on being able to link up to these families to get these monies on the account. And I tell you, it has been a huge team effort on so many levels of so many people that have stepped up to try to help to get this thing on board and launched. And I'm very proud of everybody that has put forth so much effort to get this going. So, it's
So
just
now
another way that we
this
can
one is a
help.
little bit different than the Patriot Relief Act, which is to help with the legal fees for J6ers or people who are being federally prosecuted for political reasons. So it
Well,
seems.
let me clarify, because American Patriot Relief are the ones that have the Jan 6 support hotline. They are more of a support and services. They too are doing everything that they can to raise money for commissary, for communications. But we saw a need where we were falling so short. But between their efforts, the efforts through the prisoners' record discussion, and also an amazing group of ladies down in Mississippi and Alabama, we're able to, as a community, raise about $18,000 to $22,000 a month. But it's cost about $75,000 a month if we were to take care of everybody that is currently incarcerated. And low ball estimate is about $500 for commissary and communications. And if we could raise that money nationally, what a great thing that we would be able to do. To we're not reinventing the wheel here. What we're actually doing is just trying to add other efforts so that we're not falling short on the money that we need just for commissary and communications. So that's really why we launched this Yellow Ribbon National Fundraising Campaign for commissary, because we were falling so short. And it's really just become very heavy on my heart, because I see how badly, just with the legal expenses that these families are having to endure, being able to pay their rent. Mostly it's men that have been incarcerated and are locked up, and they were the major breadwinners. These families are suffering. They can hardly pay their rent. They can hardly pay for groceries, keep food on the table, phone bills, car payments. I mean, you name
Right.
it, the list goes on and on. And the other thing that really was something that was weighing very heavy on my heart is, what could we do for these Gen 6 detainees that would immediately give them some small bit of relief? And it always came back to commissary and communications. So
Right. No,
that's
I
why we
mean,
launched
cause,
this.
on top of all of the issues, imagine not being able to at least get that phone call once a week, or,
That's right.
fill in the blank, or even for them to be able to, you know, get a bag of chips, or whatever is available inside of the commissary. But that, especially that phone call, being a military family, I remember what that was like, when they, if they were out on the ship, or if they were, Minnie was always thankfully at a port, at a hospital, but I'd have friends and stuff, and just being able to get that, especially when we were in times of war, get that phone call. Hey, I'm safe. You know what I mean? Or like when my brother, hey, I'm safe. That phone call means everything. That means everything. And it
It
does to
truly
them
does.
also. I got to hear her voice. I got to hear his voice. You know what I mean? So if you guys can help with this fund, we're going to keep that on the permanent ticker down here now that it's up and running. It's not a glam and fam website. It is straight to the point. Go there,
It is
donate.
super simple.
That's it. Yeah. Keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah, that's right. Well, and let me just touch upon the importance of these guys and these women to be able to reach out to their families. Most of them are locked up in the Washington D.C. area, and they haven't seen their families for over 2 years. And the only way that they can, talk to them is through their tablets or through phone calls. And if they don't have the money to do that, then they just sit there and they don't have anybody to speak to. And this is how the families are getting like disconnected, and there's so many issues that are going on. I mean, honestly, it is so incredibly sad because of the lack, I truly believe, of communication. We've got divorces happening, we've got children that don't speak to their parents anymore, we've got people that don't even want to answer the phone call because they've been so disconnected for such a long time. And we're hoping that we can help repair some of these relationships. And this is just a hard battle that we've all got ahead of us, that we're just doing everything that we possibly can to try to alleviate some of these stresses. And how this has just really decimated everybody financially. So
I think one of the things that more people are kind of waking up to, and it's something that we've talked about here on the show, especially with you guys on, but even at other times, is that so many people are now waking up to the fact that, wait a second, maybe these J6ers are not getting a fair shake like what we thought. Tucker Carlson releasing those videos. I know Trennis and David have been very just in the forefront. Tommy Tatum, all of those guys have been just fighting like hell to get their side of the story out. And it's not just their story, it's just the side of the story out, because we were seeing in cases where they were playing videos, but they were actually playing the videos in reverse to make it look like the J6ers were hitting the police officers, and so the police officers were pushing them back for no reason. Of course, we saw that specifically with Joseph. So we're seeing these stories, and I think more people are going, wait a second, this is happening in our country, this is happening in the United States, this is happening to American citizens. I think people are finally waking up going, wait, some of these people are in jail and they haven't even been charged for 2 years. Like, when people hear that, they're like, that can't even be possible. We have a process. And we're like,
yeah,
we do in fact have a process.
yeah,
And it's not being followed. And so this
that's
is
right.
why it is so important that this is why we've dedicated our Fridays to making sure that we have time to talk specifically about our J6ers, what's happening, what people need to know, and how they can help. Because when people are finding this information out, then they're like, well, what can we do? What can we do?
That's very true. And, I speak to hundreds of people a day, especially through our Twitter spaces, and then just being out in the general public and, just boots on the ground type deal. And, there's so many people that really have absolutely no idea what is going on. And they are shocked when you tell them the things that these Jan Sixers and their families have been facing for over 2 years, and the injustices that are truly happening right now, and the manipulation of the videos, and the DOJ and the courts withholding evidence from these Jan Sixers so that they cannot represent themselves properly. And then you've got attorneys that have become activists from the bench that are
Right.
court appointed, that don't even care about whether or not these people are found guilty or not. They're just basically walking them through the process. And it's very sad, but I can also see now at this point what it's going to all come down to is appeals. You're just going to have to go through this process, because there truly is nobody, including the Republicans up in Washington, D.C., Congress, who has oversight of the jail, and they actually could do something to make the conditions better in there. They could do something about the change of venue, which is a big deal, that every Jan Sixer was denied. So there's so many things that they could do, but without public pressure and knowledge and the truth coming out, the American people have been completely disconnected and unengaged in not only just the conversation, but also the process of what's happening to their fellow Americans.
Right.
And we try very hard to get the truth out, but Sandra, for more than 2.5 years, the media showed the same 5 clips on mainstream media that was shoved down our throat. We have been gaslit. Did you get it?
No, it's like it's a mosquito the size of my hand, by the way. Like
I'm so glad I'm not
welcome to
there.
the Rio
It would have
Grande.
bit me. America's been gaslit for 2.5 years and not told the truth about anything that's going on. But I do see so many people waking up and engaging now and at least having some questions and trying to understand what is truly happening. So I'm always very, very hopeful, that we will be able to do something to try to move the needle and make a difference. But we got to continue the pressure on Congress to do something.
Right.
If they don't think that America is engaged and wants something done, then they won't do a thing. They'll just sit back and, continue to do what they do up on Capitol Hill, which is basically sell out
Nothing.
America.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what they're doing.
Well, and that's exactly it. And I think that more, I don't want to say that the narrative is changing in the courts, but I think that more, I think they're realizing that they're going to have a harder time hiding the corruption. And I think that, maybe I'm being hopefully optimistic in this, but I think with more of the videos coming out, more people speaking out, more people asking questions, they can't hide this like they have been hiding it for so long. And so, whether it was with malice intent, and I love to try to give people the benefit of the doubt until they choke on it. But, like what we saw with Joseph's trial, and we still have sentencing and stuff to deal with, but just seeing, just listening to him see how the judge started from case one to his case, and even throughout his trial, we started seeing maybe some hearts and minds shift a little bit, going, well, shit, maybe we had this wrong.
I
And
agree.
I'm truly hopeful and optimistic that that's what we are starting to see, and that we, will continue to see. And, I think if we ended up with another round, like is projected, of mass arrests, I think that more people are going to kind of have a trigger warning with that, to be like, wait a second, hold on just a minute here. We still have people sitting in jail that haven't even been charged, and you have the audacity to start arresting people again. Like,
That's right.
more people have got to ask those questions and say those kinds of things out loud to raise this awareness. Social media is a powerful tool, and so we need to use that, but so is word of mouth, because for every 5 people on social media, there's at least 6 that are like, man, I'm not on that shit anymore.
Yeah, that's
You know
true.
what I mean?
That's very true. I
It's
mean,
like,
well,
how do we live life without social media? We talked about that yesterday on the show a little bit, kind of laughing about it, but in the same breath, like, it's an unfortunate necessary evil that when you are doing the things like what we're doing, Helena, you have to be on it. And I tease, like, man, when I'm off, I am not on that stuff at all. I'm just like, I am plumped at. That's cruel and unusual. Key lime pie. Key lime pie. Oh.
wait a second. Who's got key lime pie? Who's doing that
Who
to
do
you?
you think would do that to me?
So mean. I
So
want key lime
evil.
pie.
I'm like,
No, you're absolutely right though. Like, we got to be on social media and we got to keep hammering out the truth, and we've got to, go on to these, Twitter and Facebook and Instagram, and we've got to get it out there, because really it's up to us. Nobody else is going to do this. That is another thing that we have absolutely realized. It is up to us to step up to the plate to help these Jan Sixers families. And, that's part of the process, is getting the truth out. That is all we have ever wanted, Sandra, for 2.5 years. We're 2.5 years into this. We just want the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And it's been a really long, hard road, tedious process, but you just have to keep pushing forward every single day. Because I tell you, these guys call in to the live stream. We do the calls for the guys at the DC Gulag every single Thursday night. And these men and these women are amazing, because all I ever hear each and every one of them say is, one, we are okay and we are planning on staying in this fight for a really long time, but we just don't want America to forget about us. Please make the phone calls. Please send the emails. Pick up your, go to your city councils. Talk about what's going on with these Gen Sixers in the community and their families, because they don't have enough advocates or enough voices, and they're always so appreciative and so thankful for the Twitter spaces and the live feed at the DC Gulag that Mama Mickey is at every single night, holding this vigil for these guys, because really that's what put all of this kind of sort of on the map and in the forefront and in the public domain, so that people could actually see what is going on with these Gen Sixers and their families and what they're enduring and what they're going through.
You brought up a really good point about going to the city councils and stuff. And I think that I think a lot of people do not realize that you can go to your city council meeting, you can go to your commissioner's court meeting, you can go to these meetings, and what they do is they have a public comment section. You can talk about whatever the hell you want to talk about for 2 to 3 minutes. It just depends on the meeting's, specifications, which is posted. And you can go up there and say, hey, you know what? My name is so-and-so. I live here, or even you don't have to say that part. But you can say, listen, I'm a member of this community, and this is something that's bothering me. Our community doesn't know what's happening with our J6ers. People get this all twisted. They think they're just a bunch of election deniers or blah, blah. This has nothing to do with denying an election. Now the conversation has to do with the injustices of what's happening to people in our legal system. For years, and here's the big problem that nobody wants to talk about, as my lawyer is standing here staring at me as I'm having this conversation.
Don't talk about it.
You should have. I am not on the clock right now. But, we don't have the conversation of that there are so many politicians that run on justice reform.
That's right.
And every single person, and look, most politicians are guilty of this. It's just those damn Democrats who are trying to keep their freaking thugs out of jail. That's the immediate response. Or, one of their rich friends got themselves hemmed up in some sort of tax evasion thing and realized that it ain't all pretty up in that place. Nobody wants to have the real conversation. You know what? There are people that are there for white collar crimes. There are people in prisons all across the United States that are being treated like crap for an unjust
really
reason.
Badly.
The number of and we started seeing, and he walked away, so I'm gonna probably misquote this information. So disclaimer, but I remember a time when they started trying to reinvent DNA into cases, because they found out that there was the wrong people in jail because they didn't have the technology to go back with the DNA or the forensic whatever, but all of the evidence was still sitting in a crime locker somewhere. So you had all of these cold cases, if you will, that people had been serving time for, and come to find out they should have never been in jail in the first place. And so when we start talking about prison reform, this is what we're talking about. We're talking about making sure that the right people are behind bars. Criminals need to go to jail, period. But we have to make sure it's the criminal that went to jail. We saw the case with Donald Trump where that one lady was suing him for raping her in a Macy's, or fondling her in a Macy's dressing room. And I had to laugh because I was explaining that to Austin the other day, because he was like, well, tell me about all of this stuff that they're trying to put him Trump up for right now. And so I said, well, because he's like, what about these strippers and this other lady? And so, we were having that conversation, and he goes, yeah, because I'm certain that Donald Trump, even if he wasn't president at the time, which he wasn't, right? And I said, no, he wasn't president. He was just Donald Trump. He goes, yeah, I can definitely see Donald Trump shopping at Macy's one day and just say, hey, let me yank you by your hair and throw you into a freaking fitting room and fondle you.
You
and
can't even make this up.
So when you have a 15-year-old who's going, yeah, that definitely seems like that fits his profile. You know what I mean? But and that's a laughable matter, because it does seem so outlandish, and it has been proven that it wasn't him. And even though she's suing him civilly now, they couldn't get him criminally, so now they're suing him civilly. These are some of these holes that are in our system, that when we say prison reform or prisoner reform or jail reform or fill in the blank reform, This is the stuff that we're trying to bring the light and the awareness to. And I think now with so many Republicans, because that's who's sitting in jail right now is Republicans. They're sitting in a federal prison system. They're like, maybe we should have paid attention to that prison reform stuff a little bit more. It's something that you can kind of laugh about for just a second, but that's a conversation that is now bringing people together going, you know what, maybe we should have had a bigger conversation about this. Because here's the deal. We, as the people who are on the right side of this conversation, are saying the bad guys are going to end up in jail. Well, that's not who's ending up in jail. It's the good guys who are sitting in jail right now.
Well, that's absolutely right. And I think that if any of us... Yeah, and I think that if any of us have learned anything throughout this entire process is that we definitely need to work on prison reform. But there's so many things that have been broken, that our country is going through and we are facing. And but this is definitely something that we are working on. And it also goes back to these Jan 6ers. They're having to serve these hefty sentences, and it's all going to come down to appeals. So now we're going to have to start raising millions upon millions upon millions of dollars to help these Jan 6ers raise money for appeals. And I'm telling you, it is going to be so hard unless we can get public engagement and in the process. And you were talking about, going to city council and, engaging them in the conversation. And Suzanne wrote out a pledge, and I'm going to send it to you because I think that this is a great place to take this pledge to. And it is definitely a conversation starter. And what it states on the top, let me just send it to you real quick so you have an idea what I'm talking about. And then we can just discuss it a little bit. So basically what it says, every congressional candidate for 2024, candidates pledge, I pledge to use my voice and position in Congress to ensure equal justice under the law is being served for all Jan 6 defendants. Number 2, ensure all incarcerated J6 defendants and in fact, all inmates are being kept in humane conditions. That is the biggest thing that we figured out, how egregious that these Jan 6ers have been treated. Number 3, engage in concerted oversight into the Bureau of Prisons, the FBI, the DOJ, with regards to prosecutions of Americans engaged in the First Amendment activity to ensure First Amendment rights are being equally protected regardless of party affiliation. And then number 4, use congressional authority to correct unconstitutional partisan biases and practices in our legal system. And I think that any person that is running as an America First candidate needs to be presented with this pledge, and they should be made to sign it. And this should be something that they are running on and use on their platform.
Absolutely.
This is a great way to go to your city council and start engaging some of these people in the conversation.
No, and I think we've had this conversation before. I'm working with a client right now who's considering a run for Congress, and we were when we first met, he and I were kind of going through the banter. Okay, well, what do you think about this? Well, what do you think about that? What's your opinion on buffaloes and all of the things, right? And so then I said, have you looked into anything to do with the J6ers? And he goes, no, I'm not really sure. I mean, I've heard just a little bit kind of in the news, but of course he's been so wrapped up in border security that he's like, he wasn't there. And so now he's like, I'm starting to pick this up, and this has just been over a couple of months. He's like, I'm starting to pick up a little bit more on this. And now I'm realizing that there's stuff here that just it's not passing the sniff test, and I can't quite put my finger. I haven't truly dug into it. And I said, look, and I told you this when I first met him. I said, I'm not going to give you an opinion. I want you to learn the opinion. I want you to realize what it is that you need, the tools that you need, so that you can have an opinion, because people are going to ask you, and you have to give an answer. Are you okay with people just rotting in jail when they've been there for 2 years and they still haven't been tried? They still haven't been convicted of anything. They haven't been, they haven't even been, what's the word I'm looking for, Helena?
They
haven't actually been
prosecuted.
Arraigned. Nothing.
Yeah.
Anything.
No. Very true. It's very true. Things. We
So,
still have quite a few people who have not even gone through the process of the first step of arraignment yet.
yeah,
They're still
and they've
sitting in
just been
jail.
sitting there. So these are the conversations that you have got to ask your members of Congress, and you've got to ask people who want to run for Congress. Hey, what do you think about this? I'm not asking for you as the candidate to be an expert on this, because Helena, you pour your life into this, and you still are like, you know what? I have to go back and find out this information. So and that's the thing. I'm not looking for any one member of Congress to be a complete expert. But what I am asking them to do, and a candidate, to say, hey, you know what? Something's not right here. Something's not passing the sniff test, and we need to investigate this.
That's
we need to
absolutely
put
right.
some resources behind this. We need to find out what the hell is going on inside of these jails. Because I remember when Louis Gohmert fought like hell just to be able to go into the jail as a member of Congress.
He certainly did.
And when he came out, you know, I consider him a giant. Even to this day, I'm so honored that he takes my calls or returns a text message if I need some clarification on something. And I will never forget this as long as I live, Helena. Walter and I were sitting with him in the Capitol Hill Club, and that man's eyes brimmed up with tears when he started talking about the J6ers. Yeah. Like, there was no cameras around. There was no, you know, there was none of that stuff at all. It was just three people, three Texans sitting around talking about what's happening in our country. And man, I'll tell you what, that was probably one of the most humbling things I've ever experienced.
Yeah, and you know, I mean, listen, there's been people that have working very, very hard to try to get the ear of these Congress people, and Louis Gohmert, very, very early on, thank God, love that man, that he did go to the jail with Marjorie Taylor Greene and Matt Gaetz, and they did do that initial inspection, and you know, they sort of did. I mean, they laid the groundwork for us to be able to come behind them and continue the work to shed light on the situation and the things that are going on. But this is part of the problem with this process, Sandra, is that when we've gone to Congress and we have delivered these American Gulag books, letters from the prisoners, people have absolutely no idea. Even our congressional representatives, they are uneducated. And we have to change that. Right. We've got to pick up the phone. We've got to talk to them. We've got to get in front of them. We've got to make the appointments to have sit-down conversations, because if we don't give them the information, then they're not going to do anything. Are they a little ignorant? Well, maybe. Or have they just not been engaged in the conversation of the process? More likely. I would like to give them the benefit of the doubt, but they're just uneducated as far as I'm concerned. They're ill-informed.
No, you're absolutely correct. And that's the problem. We have to break that barrier down for them. Because what they're being fed in Washington, D.C. is complete BS. When I was running for Congress, one of my opponents, Cassie Garcia, she point blank said we were attacked. We were victimized on January 6th, and we got death threats, and we got this and we got that, and we're like, but yeah, from the bad guys. Yeah. Like, and that's not to say that some Republicans did not take it too far. We all know that there's always a crazy kook in the bunch, but that's not who's sitting in jail.
That's right.
And so when we watch Ted Cruz and then all of the people that were under his watch, if you will, go from it wasn't an insurrection to it was an insurrection, we were so afraid.
And I have never said
they plant this crap into these people's heads.
Yes.
And they'll get that quick plant, and then that's what they go with. And nobody is there to say the opposite. Nobody.
No, that's very true. And it kind of goes back to what I said earlier about sharing the same 5 clips that they shoved down our throat in the media. And I have never said that there weren't bad actors there that day.
Right.
I have never said that there weren't some people that did some really bad things, and I think that they should be held accountable.
Absolutely.
But for the most part, it was just peaceful and patriotic patriots that walked from the ellipse to the Capitol to air their grievances, because we were all pretty upset about a stolen election, which is another thing that they don't want to accept, the fact that we actually did have a stolen election. I mean, we're still being censored on social media just for saying that the election was stolen. I mean,
Big
it's
lie.
just absolutely insane. It's insane, but that's the reason that I went there that day. I think that that's the reason that most Americans went there that day. We were very concerned about the direction that our country was in. We knew that the election had been stolen from us, from President Trump. We were trying to stand up to air our grievances and show up as a people and as a country. And I don't think anybody really knew the gravity of the situation, of how pre-planned that day was. Of course, now we have so much more information 2.5 years later, but the people that are sitting in jail right now don't have due process. They don't have good representation, and their families and their lives are being destroyed. And somebody has to do something to step up to help, to spread awareness and take some of this burden off of these families. And that's one of the reasons I continue to do the work that I'm doing, because there's very few of us that are doing that, Sandra.
No, you're absolutely correct, and I'm honored that we were able to meet up over a year ago. We truly, we've said it before. We would have been there had the White House not told Walter, hey, you can't sit in the area because they had just gotten done with the quarantine. We would have been there. So we did the next best thing that we knew to do. So we did a big send off. I mean, we started down at Boca Chica Beach, where SpaceX happens to be, at the most southern tip of Texas, where the last dance with the Confederates against the Union, the last battle of the Civil War. We stood right there on that beach, and we said prayers. We prayed for Congress. We prayed for our leaders. We prayed for those that were going, and in every single stop along the way. There, Corpus Christi, I think I made one other stop, and every single time, we're praying for our country. We're praying for our leaders. We're praying for our president. We're praying for members of Congress to stand up and do the right thing. We're praying that everything is peaceful. We want God's will in this. And do I think that God's will is still in this? Absolutely, I do. Every single time. Because God has to allow this stuff to come to light. Because if not, it's going to keep happening. And God's like, look, we got to air this stuff out. We got to get it out. So do I think that Donald Trump won? Yes. Do I think it was a stolen election? Yes. Is Biden who is sitting there? Yes. Do I think that God put him there? Yes. Because every single yes is allowed that corruption to now come to light. We're seeing where all of this stuff that's been happening for the last 50 years with Biden, the Clintons, Soros funded people, international trade deals, all of this other stuff, all of this corruption that is leading towards this one world order has all now it's in a limelight that would have never happened. It couldn't have happened had Trump not been the president. Trump lost in a weird way. And now, because now people are digging in, they're not just blanketly listening to the news and turning around and walking away. People are going, wait a second, that doesn't make any sense. Do you know the number of text messages that I have received in the last 24 hours about cocaine in the White House? I mean, you know what I mean? And I said, now my joke. I made the joke this morning. I said, I was taking my nasal spray this morning, and someone goes, "What are you doing? Liquid cocaine?" And I said, "Hey, if it's good enough for the White House, it's good enough for this house. Gosh darn it!" And we kind of, we kind of laughed about it, but like this stuff has been happening. This is not brand new.
Nope.
It's now being exposed, and it could not have been exposed had the last 10 years not taken place. The last 4 years not taken place.
I agree. I mean, I think that this is all part of the awakening that America needed to experience. And it's very sad that our country's come to this, because this started, decades ago. But what really, I think, has brought all of this to the forefront is when this country got locked down because of COVID. I think that, and then the forced jab, and then just masking our children, and then just one thing after another, the indoctrination of our kids, and the schools not being in session, and, remote learning, and just one thing after another. I think people are in a very, very different place as to how they feel about what the government is, what they have done, and what they have created as far as a future for our country. And I think that there's so many people now that truly, truly are waking up. Like I said, I listen in. These Twitter spaces get very interesting sometimes. I don't just do mine, but I listen into others. And a couple of days ago, I was on a Twitter space where they were talking about the vaccine injured. And this is just one aspect of the very, very hard things that we're facing. I mean, I've listened to families say, they didn't want to get the vaccine, but they had to keep their job, to feed their children, and now they're sick and they've lost family members. I mean, this has all been part of the awakening that America, I truly believe that you're right, Sandra, had to experience in order for us to fix the many, many, many terrible things that are going on. I agree with you.
There's been so many people who just we knew that this kind of stuff was going on, but we didn't have that tangible, this is what's happening, right? That's why there's been all these people who are considered preppers and everything else, because they saw all of this coming. They pay attention to what's happening in politics. They pay attention to what's happening in government. They're paying attention to what the Bible says, and they're over here going, you know what? We should be prepared. Something just might happen. And now, it's like every day it just seems like it's getting closer and closer and closer to what we have been told to expect. And you're sitting there going, you know what, maybe we should buy some extra canned goods. You know what, maybe we should get a cow.
Yeah.
All of these conversations are really happening. And last night we were talking to I was talking to somebody, and this is somebody who has access, first name access to several Congress people on both sides of the aisle. And we were talking about something, and he just started laughing, and he goes, Sandra, I don't know how these dumbasses get elected and you didn't. He goes, they can't even freaking leave a voicemail, and how they got elected. He goes, because he goes, I know how they sell their souls to get there. Sure. And he goes, I know that you really wanted to be there. He goes, but I'm kind of glad that you weren't. He goes, because you need to be associated with those dumbasses up there. At least you're making a real difference down here. And we all laughed because it was in a lighthearted moment. But last night, Walt and I were talking, and he said, he goes, as much as that's where we thought that you needed to be, I think that we needed the process to get us to where we are right now, in terms of the conversations that we're able to be in, that I don't think that we would have had the true opportunity. That was always a fear. And anybody who runs for office, you need to have that healthy fear to know that they're going to try and put people around you to silence the information that you get. And so it's important. We were talking to a lady last week who was running for a state seat here in Texas. And she said, my biggest fear is that they are going to, I don't want anybody from Austin to be in my office. In fact, I just want a whole bunch of grandmothers in my office. And I started laughing. I was like, and Walt started laughing because Sandra's been saying that for a long time. We need like den mothers, if you will, or dorm mothers on every aisle or on every hallway to be like, hey, what's going on in here? And somebody, pick that up. You know what I mean? Like, just to kind of do the maintenance stuff that needs to be done, because they are literally putting, when you realize that college age students and just graduated from college, like people under 30 are the ones that are actually doing everything. They're the ones who make sure who gets the information. They're the ones who say, no, that's not important. Nah, that's not important. Hey, did you see this meme that we made? Oh, no, that's not important. Those are the people that are actually making the decisions in Washington, D.C., because they're the ones that filter the information that goes to your congressman. That's just, you muted yourself again. That is I would have to fix my hair every day if I was in D.C. That is also true. And nobody, y'all are lucky you get makeup most days.
I don't know. I'm getting ready to walk out the door in about 5 minutes because I've got to go visit Shane Jenkins for the first time, who's running the Real Jan 6 with Sarah Maccabee. And I'm super excited because I've been here for almost 2 months, 7.5 weeks, almost 2 months. And I still have yet to visit a prisoner. So today is going to be a big day for me. And I do have to scoot here in just a few moments.
Yeah.
because visitation starts very, very soon. And I've just been dying to get up there to the jail. So finally today, after all this time of sitting back waiting to be vetted, to make sure that I am not another criminal that's walking into the DC gulag, and I don't have like this big, record or something, or I'm not a murderer or a bank robber, they finally approved me for visitation. So I'm excited about that. And we got so many things that we're so excited about and that we're working on, and we're just trying to find ways to help. And let me just close by saying, please, if you have it on your heart to donate to the commissary fund, you could really help
in the
a
ticker,
family.
j6commissaryfund.org, and I have that if you look on our Facebook page. I think it's even posted on the YouTube part as well, so that you can click right on that link. So it's j6commissaryfund.org. Now don't freak out, because when you type that in, it's going to hyperlink it to, it'll say something different at the top. So don't freak out, but it's still the same one. It'll say donorbox.org/PAP-6 J6 whatever. So, but this is the site. This is why I always, if I give you guys a link, I make sure that you see the website so that you know that you're at the right place, because it's so important. And you can make a one-time donation. You can do a reoccurring monthly donation, whatever is on your heart. We say it all the time, anything that you can afford to do. I mean, even if it's just $5, it really does make a difference, and it goes a long way. Helena, I appreciate you taking this time. I blew through our commercial break because I knew you were going to have to go. So we're going to go ahead and do that now. So thank you. We love you. Give our J6ers all of the love from the Texas Fully Loaded crew. We appreciate you.
You stay safe down there, and I will see you next Friday. Thank you so much for everything. I love you too.
Talk to you. Bye. And the rest of you, we'll be right back. Call a friend. back with a huge thank you to our amazing sponsors, the Montgomery County Tea Party. Don't forget the first and the third Monday of every month, be at Citizens Grill in Conroe, Texas. Get there early. The meeting starts at 6:30, but you want to get something yummy to eat, hug some necks, and say hello to some fellow patriots. Maybe learn something, ask questions, make it an interactive experience. Don't just sit there and think that you're just going to sit at a table and not get to, talk or do anything. Like, be involved. That's what it's all about. It's we the people work, because we need you to be a part of it. And then, of course, our Vietnam Veterans of America. Your service and sacrifice went far beyond the shores of Vietnam. You continue to serve and to sacrifice for your fellow veterans and their families, whether they've served in Vietnam or whether it's all the way to present times. You make sure that they get a welcome home. So we thank you for everything that you do. Get involved with them. If you can find one of their groups, they usually meet alongside of the VFWs. And take them, a tray of cookies or some chips for their meeting, maybe a drink, some watermelons, since we're on a watermelon farm today, and tell them thank you and welcome home. Make it sincere, guys. They truly deserve it, and deeply appreciate the sentiment. So please make sure that you say welcome home to them. And then if you're sick and tired of the big box shopping, I know I am, go to mammothnation.com. It's down here. Here it comes. Quick. mammothnation.com/#WeThePeopleWork. Sign up there. If you sign up through that link, it's only $25 for the year. You support Texas Fully Loaded, and you get exclusive access to American and veteran-owned businesses, but you get discounts. So make sure that you sign up. It's always for a good cause, because you're supporting Americans. Crazy concept. So make sure you do that. mammothnation.com/#WeThePeopleWork. Sign up, get exclusive deals, get exclusive access, and hey, be a part of the change, man. The good change, not that Obama crap. the real McCoy. And then I had something else. Let me think. Oh, don't forget, we're going to be launching our new tab on Texas Fully Loaded's website. So make sure that you go there, because probably by let me lie to you again and tell you that I'm going to fix it this weekend, but I am going to start working and tinkering on it, because we want to get that link up so you guys can get the Texas Fully Loaded coffee mug. I know that you guys want one. We've got 2. So make sure that you get that so that you can enjoy it and drink coffee with me. It'll be a lot of fun. We're going to be adding new stuff periodically, so we'll let you guys know. We'll do little teasers here and there, so that you guys can be a part of the TFL family and fan club and all that kind of fun jazz. So that'll be exciting. Maybe we should do like a fan club thing where you get like a T-shirt and a mug or water bottle or something, and then like next thing you know, you're all like, "I'm an official TFL club member," and be like, "Heck yeah, you are." We get more, man. You just let me get some more hands to put on this bag of computer, so I don't have to be. I have tons of ideas. I just need some volunteers. It's We the People Work. We the People Work. So anyway, I appreciate everything that you guys do. You like, you follow, you share, you comment. That helps us to break the algorithms, and it lets people kind of get in on the conversation. Maybe hear something they haven't heard before, or they've heard it but they've not heard it from a different viewpoint. So be a part of the conversation. It really it's a game changer, y'all. Hold on, I just got a text about needing a link here. Walt was like, "Yeah, they got the link," and I'm like, "Oh, cool." And now I'm like, "They ain't got the link." Give me a second here. Una momento, por favor. One second, I promise. All right. Now that's been said. I did my part. So anyway, make sure that you are paying attention to our ticker. I usually try to update and add things, especially stuff that's really important to us. The J6 commissary fund, like Miss Helena was just talking about. You guys know that's something that's it's on our hearts as well to kind of move forward to help them however we can. So this is the outlet that we can help the most. So that's exactly what we're doing. Also, you can. Don't forget about singforfreedom.us. That's super important that we get part of that conversation every night at 9 p.m. Eastern time. Joseph Thomas goes on and he does the national anthem, and more people are starting to do that. If you hashtag the Sing for Freedom, it's a really cool thing. It really is. And it's a great way to open up the conversation and to talk about what's happening with J6ers, talk about American, being American, patriot pride and all that kind of stuff. It's so important. It's so important to have these conversations with people because that's how we start changing what's happening is that people are opening their eyes. Like I said right before the commercial break, I truly believe that people that we've had to go through what our nation has been going through this last let's just keep it simple and say decade so that we can be ready to fight, so that we can be prepared and we know what's going on. It's not always a physical fist fight or firefight like people think it is. Sometimes it's literally in the halls of Congress or it's in the halls of City Hall or Commissioner's Court or fill in the blank in your state capitol. These battles are so important. And if you're not engaged with this process, then you get railroaded, just like what happened to so many business owners during COVID-19. So many people got taken advantage of because they didn't know that there was a process. They assumed that a mandate was a law. They assumed, right? And that was the biggest problem. What happens when you assume? Welcome to what happened with COVID-19 and COVID for so many, or the coronavirus and all that kind of crap. There's still people that walk around head to toe in masks and plastic suits and the whole entire thing. And you're like, God help those people. They were lied to so badly that they don't believe that they're not free anymore. That's the reality. They became slaves to a lie. They became slaves to a system. Yes, the virus is real. I've never denied the virus was real. It was a real strand. People really were getting very sick. Very few people were truly dying solely from COVID-19. It was usually the complications associated with COVID-19. And that's the big game changer. That's stuff that nobody wants to talk about. And now we're seeing more and more with the vaccine mandates and stuff that they were so unjust, which they were. And so many people did lose their jobs fighting that stuff. They lost their homes, their families, their livelihoods, all of it. But now we're seeing where people are recovering and people are going back and they're suing the piss out of these people for this nonsense. As well they should. And that needs to happen more and more. You see more and more where people are just dropping dead at sports events or all of a sudden somebody has a stroke or all of a sudden all of these people had underlying heart conditions. Yesterday I talked a lot about food and stuff like that and about why it's important that you pay attention, you read labels, because there are so many things that is in food, especially packaged food, that if you can't pronounce it and you don't know what it is, you probably shouldn't be eating it. It's kind of a good rule of thumb, I think. Like if you can't put a finger on it, and even like I'm kind of choosy, like with a lot of my recipes and stuff. Like if I see something in there, like there's some recipes that'll call for like xanthan gum and stuff like that, and I make it without it and it tastes just fine. I mean, yes, it's a common ingredient. No, it's not necessarily something bad, but you got to pay attention to this stuff. Thank you, Janie. Yeah, if we can't pay attention to these little things, that's why all of this big crap happens to us, because we're so busy being busy, or better yet, we're so busy not paying attention, right? That we just let this stuff go by, and I think that I was laughing because I was with my dear friend Dana when we were trying to shop for stuff, and we were trying to find a seasoning, and so I have to read seasonings now with this rice allergy. I have to read seasonings because rice is an anti-caking agent. So it's in a lot of stuff. It's also rice syrup, right? It's in a lot of organic stuff as well, or more natural foods and stuff. And so there's nothing wrong with it unless you're allergic to it. But then when you start reading the ingredients on stuff and you're like, wait a second, why does this need to be in here? Wait a second, what is that? Why is that in there? That's definitely a different conversation that I think people just don't realize is happening to their food. If you've ever watched, Netflix used to have a lot of these docuseries and stuff, but you can find them easily. The Truth About Monsanto's. If you go back and you watch that stuff and you realize how a lot of your underlying health conditions and things like that are attributed to the Monsanto's or the MSG and things like that we've been exposed to for so long. And in the counter argument is, yeah, well, I mean, I've already had it, so who cares? Well, no, that's true. You have I mean, then why ever quit smoking? Right? I mean, I smoked for years, so why did I quit smoking? I've been exposed to it for years, so why should I quit? Well, it's the same exact mentality with what you put in your mouth. And it is hard to break habits. It is hard to, learn to shop in a different light, especially if somebody's been doing shopping the same way for so many years. It's like, well, why even bother? Well, well, you know what? I eat out or I have fast food. Well, you know what? That's fine. I'm not telling you not to eat out. I'm not telling you to not eat fast food. I mean, don't eat fast food all of the time. And look, I travel probably more than most. I get it. Sometimes you just, especially out here in West Texas, you just learn to pack. You learn to pack a lunch because you ain't finding a place to just pull off and stop. You need to have those things prepared, and you end up cutting down on how much money you spend outside in terms of like at restaurants and things like that, or on junk. And when you one of the things that you find and is when you're eating properly and you're not getting all of these additional sugars or all of these additional, like the MSGs and stuff like that, they're designed to make your body crave things that you wouldn't necessarily eat. And so then the quick fix to these things is like pick up a pocket of Reese cups or pick up a Snickers bar or pick up this or pick up that, and we forget that So this is funny. I just got sent to me from Ken a map of where the cocaine was dropped. Hold on. I don't know if this is going to be funny or if this is going to be serious. So we'll find out together. You know what? When the network owner sends it to you, I'm not even gonna preview it. I'm just gonna open it. So we're gonna find out together. Hold on. Hold on. It's opening. Maybe it's opening. All right, here we are. Oh, this is fun. Hold on a second. Look at this. What happened? A white powdery substance was located in the West Wing Sunday evening by a Secret Service agent doing a routine patrol. The White House was evacuated and DC Fire and EMS were called. An initial test of the substance came back positive for cocaine. Where in the West Wing was it found? Officials familiar with the incident say it was located in a holding area that is accessible to both White House staff and guests. I don't know. Who works in the West Wing? The West Wing is the administrative center of the American presidency, and it includes the Oval Office, cabinet room, and press briefing room. Typically, the West Wing also houses the office of key employees, including the White House Chief of Staff, Press Secretary, Communications Director, and National Security Advisor, who has access to the West Wing. While the White House is open for public tours, albeit only by request and if scheduled through a member of Congress, the West Wing is a more controlled environment and only accessible via personal invitation or a connection with a staffer. Still, more than 4,000 West Wing tours were recorded as having been taken in March, the most recent month for which visitors' logs are available. So, in short, it's a little hard to get right here to where the cocaine pack was found. Now, I'm no lawyer, but I happen to have one on standby. Kind of suspicious that there's going to be they're still trying to find out who to blame. It's not like there's anybody that has access to the White House West Wing that has a cocaine problem. Interesting. John Spires, are you nearby? Can you pop on? Huh? He's trying to. I'm like, I hear my voice in the very far distance. He's there. So we're seeing more and more information coming out on this cocaine thing. I know that Ken sent me this because I had made the comment about my my nasal spray. Hey, John, how's it going, friend?
It's going. I've got you on like 2 screens.
I mean, why wouldn't you want to? Got Sasquatch running around back here. I think I have a real Sasquatch problem, John.
I'm doing well. Let me.
A real
I'm getting it left
Sasquatch
over.
problem.
There we are. How are you?
I'm good. You never know what's going to come out of the Rio Grande, though.
It looks like I'm
Picture
frozen.
here, please. No, I can see you're moving well on our screen.
Oh my God! Look behind you though. There's Sasquatch.
So what do you think about this cocaine problem in the White House?
Well, the cocaine problem concerns me. I can't. Okay, because there's a time lag here, but the main thing I want to know is there something Walter's trying to show everyone that he is wearing a particular accoutrement that he.
Walter, is there something special that you want to show everybody? You got it in the wrong ear. It's his new gangster belt buckle. Or are you a gangster or a cowboy?
I'm a cowboy, like Kid Rock.
Are you a gangster? You're a gangster cowboy, like Kid Rock.
I'm a GC, gangster cowboy.
You can take credit for that, John.
Here we go.
Yeah, it is a little bit of a delay, John. Oh, now he is. Oh no, yeah. There's a little delay.
Gangster cowboy.
Well,
There we go.
What people don't understand is I'm just a few yards away, and so I'm hearing them talk out of my, in the distance, and then it goes up into the internet, and I guess the Chinese Communist Party massages the data feed and sends it back, and so I'm getting it with a delay.
But at least now we know that it's actual verbiage that we're saying, and it's not a Chinese message in between. They have not.
That's exactly right.
They have not infiltrated our internet connection to give you a weirdo message.
Well,
yes. Well, we are
turn the sound off on my side because I'm hearing you without the delay, and that's driving me nuts.
Just be like me. I hear voices in my head all the time, so you just need to learn how to tune them out.
Well, Walter, I think the voices. There was an old joke about this fella says I need to see a psychiatrist, and the answer that people say, why do you think you need to see a psychiatrist? Said because the voices in my head prescribed one for me. So there you have it. They're right up the hill. If anybody is watching and wondering what in the world's going on, we're down here in South Texas. It's hot, sweltering. There are a lot of mosquitoes, and I would say that swarming more than mosquitoes, guys. Is there something else swarming down here that we need to be concerned about?
Walter eating me off. That's the thing that we should all be concerned
like
with.
Banaka.
So now I was going to say, so John, tell us what brought you down here to beautiful South Texas. And we truly are in a bit of an oasis area on the river. It's a gorgeous area. Where I gave some disclosure that I wasn't just haphazardly having my back. We know where we're at. We're at the Borders farm here, and he's been a very gracious host. And so make sure when you're shopping for watermelons, you get one with the Borders watermelon sticker on it.
That's right. These are fine people. They're good folks that were gracious enough to allow all of us to come down. And we met with some folks to talk about really some of the challenges that we're facing as a state, as a nation. And then we are hearing some potential solutions from some really bright folks. Walter, what are you doing?
I'm just rocking the Glock. It's a trigger warning for all of our invasive species of the left. There we go.
You have gun will travel.
Exactly. I'm actually hoping. I'm waiting for the Facebook ban on this for the extreme violence. I mean, you can go to any Mexican website you want to. People get beheaded all day long. Same with Al Qaeda. But I mean, over here, it's as soon as they get triggered by the Glock, it's all over.
Well, I think that what many folks don't understand is just the danger that is posed by being down near the border. My wife and I joke that the most considerate gifts we can give each other is body armor. we recognize that the issue here on the border is not one that's going to have an easy solution in many people's minds. But to folks like us, we recognize it is pretty simple. Secure the border, and much of the problem is going to go away. We hear folks talk about the humanitarian crisis. The humanitarian crisis actually is occurring because I'll just say it, some damn fools have encouraged people to cross Mexico and put their lives in danger and then come to the United States so they can live in the shadows and be second rate for the rest of their lives and be taken advantage of, to be raped and tortured along the way by cartels. That's the humanitarian crisis. What we're trying to do in Texas is stop that, stop the illegal crossing of our southern border and secure our nation. And that way we're doing the true humanitarian thing by not only protecting our citizens, but by sparing these folks the misguided belief that they're going to be welcomed here and granted immediate asylum, granted full citizenship, granted tremendous government benefits. That's not happening. We're loving, caring people, but the way our federal government is going about this by allowing folks to wander into the state is not helping these people. It's taking advantage of folks that are trying to come here. We have a wonderful system where if you come legally, we will welcome you. If you come illegally, it's a disaster.
Walt's not leaving. He needs a chair. There you go. You're clear of the courts. All right. Yeah, and that's the whole thing. Like the true humanitarian crisis is that people will not address the fact that these people are being victimized and abused to come. And all we're asking for is for them to come into the country legally so that we can truly get them the help that they need. And I made the statement at the beginning of the show that if we places like here on the farm where they have $5 to $10 million in cleanup fees for them to come through this land illegally, just on this one property alone, that's a huge amount of money. But and they pay fair wages here and all of that kind of stuff. So it's not that they don't need the workers. It's not that we don't want the workers, but they're doing it legally here. And if this farm can do it, then so can the next farm and the next farm and the next farm and the next farm. And then people can truly come in the right way. If you're coming through the river, you're already risking the fact that you're going to drown.
Well, here's on the fair wages standards and act and everything else they're talking about. A lot of these Democrat states, they employ the illegal aliens, and they're actually being employed for a couple bucks less than what it legally costs. I mean, it's no longer the fact that we're only paying $3 or $5 an hour is all so and so is making. I mean, it's not like Chinese wages where they're doing 25 cents a day type stuff. They're just making a few dollars under what the legal workers are making. Mm-hmm. The fact that Congress cannot mandate or cannot mandate that the administration do the right thing when it comes to the visa workers getting work permits, guest worker program, whatever. We need to remand that stuff back to the states now. I mean, the feds have screwed it up. Legal immigration can be happening. If you want the cheaper wages, hey, great. But people don't realize the cheaper wages are costing us more in healthcare because those are hospitals, those are local property tax owners that are paying for that one instance. They're local, and it keeps going down the line. The uninsured motorists, all that kind of stuff, because these people are being forced to live in the shadows, and that's no way to live. Illegal immigration, literal, or the migration as they're calling it, that is literally the new slave class. And the Democrats they're well aware of it. They're behind it. They're hiding it as we need to have humanity. At the end of the day, they gave those countries. We're giving foreign aid for this. We're giving foreign aid for that. And what have those rulers with those foreign countries and with USAID? What have they done? They've given them out to basically the freedom cartel, which is the people that take away the freedoms of those people. It's not making it to the people. All we're doing is paying for more corruption. And so our taxpayers are paying for the corruption, and then they're paying for the probable fix, and then we're paying for the problem. Exactly. U.S. taxpayer is getting beat down 3 times over. They're getting fleeced, and they're stealing it from us. And all the politicians do is turn around and raise money on this. This is
exactly. One of the things I think the average viewer does not realize, they think if someone comes across the border, they will take a job that maybe Americans don't want, and they're going to work for less, and they're going to contribute to our economy. That's their starting point. What they do not realize, and I want to reiterate some points you made. Let's say that someone hires an illegal alien to do some work for them. They think, I saved $2 an hour by doing that. They say, I've saved money. It's more cost effective. But that person has to have some kind of health care that you pay for. They have to have, it changes your insurance rate. You pay for that, not them. So that $2 is evaporated a long time ago. We have a rise in crime. Here's a statistic that will shock many folks. Illegal aliens, this is a way low estimate, I believe, but they say maybe 7 to 10% of the population is made up of illegal aliens. 64% of crimes at the federal level, 64%, are committed by illegal aliens. So we're paying increased cost for law enforcement. We're having to shift away resources to take care of these issues. The list just goes on. And it is hard for folks to recognize that $2 they see immediately being saved, or dollar, or 50 cents, they're paying for 3, 4, 10 times or more in the long term. The changes in our society have really been to the detriment. And one group that has suffered under this tremendously, particularly here in South Texas, where we have a rich multicultural population. It's a great place. We have folks they describe themselves, they are Tejanos. They're of Hispanic families that have been here for so long, and they're being deprived of many privileges that they feel unsafe now. Let's put it that way. They feel unsafe because they're confused with illegal aliens. And that is unfair to our citizens. It is unfair. If you're an American, you're an American. I don't care what color your skin is. I don't care what your surname is. You're an American. We're protecting our own citizens.
And John, you make up a good point. Jason Jones with Newsmax came down and was embedded with the Terrell County Sheriff's Department the past couple of weeks. Earlier this week, they aired one of the stories, which was a lady who came through last year, illegal alien from Mexico, with her 15-year-old and her 9-year-old son, and the extreme heats the extreme heat conditions that they got when this group of 13 were coming through the desert, because Del Rio Eagle Pass and all the way down to Zapata into the Rio Grande Valley. That was all full, and nobody wants to go through the Sonora Desert and all that stuff. So they come through here and into Terrell County, which is on the border, close to Big Bend. And they, the 15-year-old experiences heat stress, or even worse, but he has it's the usual whiny teenager. The cartel smuggler told the mom if she doesn't do it, then they will. But basically, they forced her to beat him over the head with a rock and until he died. And the 9-year-old brother had to help hold the legs down while she did it, or else everyone was going to die or get left out there in the desert. So it was either lose him or lose everybody. And those are the horrible kind of decisions they're trying to make. And these sheriffs, they're putting this information back into these Facebook Messenger groups, talk groups down there, the WhatsApps, the Snapchats, and all that stuff. And these illegals aren't getting it because they're illegals because they're illegally entering the country.
Correct.
The question is, why hasn't the Biden administration, why hasn't the White House, period, let's take Biden's name off of it. Why is the federal government, why is Congress, why are the senators, I'm talking both sides of the aisle, why is there not a door for these people to come down? Why is the State Department down there not doing their job? Why is the Red Cross printing up, the International Red Cross printing up these posters, these little flyers in different languages on how to come to America illegally? Don't travel at night, watch the cartels, there's bad people and all that stuff. We should have, our State Department should have a welcome mat at every one of their locations. They should say, you want to come here? Why do you want to come here? Oh, you feel oppressed? You feel this? Great. What can you contribute? Let's get you over there. because hey, you know what? It is true. These illegal aliens, these migrants that are legal, they're taking jobs that Americans don't want. Okay, good stuff there. Why are they being forced to live as slaves while doing that?
Correct.
Because we have the fun part, the farm we're on right now. This guy right here, he's doing it right. You go to Florida. Hey, Florida's got the same problem. Ron DeSantis, great governor. They got good laws that we can't get passed here in Texas, but they still have the same issues. Georgia, Virginia, Michigan, all of these places. These migrant farm workers, and keep this in mind. We had a migrant Mexican-born farm worker born into Congress, and in her short time in Congress, what did she get done? She made sure that Indian DACA dreamers could get their say in court, could get their say here in America. You have Henry Cuellar. He's the son of migrant workers. I physically met one of his old 7th, 8th grade band directors. The story there was incredible. You have a sitting Democrat U.S. congressman that he would stay with his band director, him and his family members. They would stay with the band director. They were too poor, and Henry goes over that. They were too poor at the time to do to be able to travel back with the band. And so what would they do? They would actually stay with the band director. The next morning, they were out there working on the farm till the parents could come get them. So this has been going on for decades upon decades that we've had legal migrants. So why do we have to create a mass million influx of illegal migrants? The problems you're seeing in France, are specifically from the fact that they let their illegal immigration problem flourish to what it did years ago. Now you have these people that have not assimilated to the laws, and we're talking a teenager who lives in a no-go zone, so the French government doesn't even patrol these areas, and this kid gets killed for whatever reason. I mean, the cops may be at fault, but at the end of the day, not every cop is bad, and not every cop is good. But whenever you have folks from another country or that are living within your country that are not speaking the same rules, eventually they're going to meet somebody who does not know that they don't know what the rules are. Because when we hire a cop to enforce the rules, and it's got to go across the board on everybody.
Well, and that's the whole thing. Like when people come to our country legally and they want to become citizens, they have to learn our customs. They have to learn our laws so that they can follow them. When people come through the border, they through the open spaces in the border, they don't know the laws, so they can't follow them. So we do have.
They start from a position of no trust. They start from a position of avoiding law enforcement, and that's just a disaster.
Exactly.
But I want to back up to something you said earlier, Walter, because I want to make sure that the viewers understand one of the major challenges we face, and it's something that the three of us have talked about many, many times. Non-government organizations, charities that you and I and others may support because we believe in charity. We are charitable people. We love helping others. They're actually acting to help folks come to the United States. They print these documents. And one thing you left out, Walter, when you were giving your description of where to go, who to avoid, when to travel, how to travel, where to stay, it is take your birth control pills. And by the way, here's a rape kit and that morning after kit, because you'll probably be raped once, twice, many times en route to the United States. That's a disaster. And we can't encourage that.
John, those are what they give the 10-year-old girls.
Correct. Yes. And it's just disgusting. And I would like for that to soak in with folks. And then the next thing folks need to realize is that the dollars that they contribute, or let's be frank, that our federal government takes our tax dollars and gives to the NGOs. Oh, wait a minute. They don't give it to the NGOs. They give it to DHS, which then contributes to the NGOs and then gives it to the illegal migrants so that they can deny it. The money that we spend there, a large amount of that money doesn't actually go to care for the migrants. There's a business. It's called the business of poverty. If you give an NGO, let's just pick a number out of thin air. Let's say $6,000. I don't know where that number came from. And it costs the NGO maybe $1,500 to take care of that immigrant. Well, that's a hefty profit on there. Now you may say, oh, they can take care of others, but no, this is per head that they get.
And they're not.
And whatever that number is, I'll confess, I don't have hard evidence of these numbers.
But wait, John, you need to remember the people in charge of these NGOs. Well, they need to get paid too. So we're creating jobs by doing this, and just because, like Black Lives Matter, just because they get $1 million or $2 doesn't mean they should be able to live in a nice mansion in Beverly Hills.
Yeah, gosh, y'all are so selfish. Why would we use that surplus money to help the members of the community, like the homeless veterans, or help people with drugs? Like, that's crazy talk, John.
Well, and
Very
what
selfish.
what we want people to realize is this not the three of us coming up with these ideas. This is well documented. Years ago, years before the migrant crisis, the immigrant crisis, the illegal alien surge, people were writing about the business of poverty, how you can take advantage of government programs to line your pockets while helping the needy. And it's not a new idea. It's been this way for many, many years. And it is one of the saddest things to think that there are women and children, men, boys, who are being abused because they have been lied to and told to come to the United States. If you have a legitimate reason to claim asylum, if you have a reasonable need to come to the United States, a fear for your safety, then you go to a port of entry and you're processed. You go to a part of the Department of State, one of the many consulates scattered throughout Central and South America, throughout Mexico, throughout Europe, and you plead your case there. If you have a legitimate case, we welcome you. But if you come across the border and you come between checkpoints, that's already a red flag. We know something's wrong. You can't get here legally. You don't qualify, and you come in. And what do we see coming across with this? We see the fentanyl crisis just exploding, the rise in violent crime underneath the Biden administration. Now, I will be one of the first to say there was crime related to illegal immigration during the Trump era, but it was on the decline, dramatic decline. And then suddenly, when Joe Biden took office, we saw it just spike. It's gone up, and it's still incredible. The number of homicides, the number of assaults, the number of sexual assaults, these cases have just continued to increase. It is a mess. And why? Because we're not letting in people that are coming here to live right and do good. We're letting in a substantial number of folks who we cannot vet. Many people say, don't you check these folks to see if they're criminals? Don't we do a background check? I just want to point out that there's not some international global database of criminals. We don't know what happens inside Venezuela. We can't access their data. We can't access what's happening in Mexico. We can't access what's happening anywhere. So all we can do is say, well, we don't see any criminal record in the United States for you, so you must be okay. Yeah.
So
exactly.
Orange
just don't pay attention.
Yeah, Orange Man Bad. He said Mexico, their rapists and their violent criminals are coming over, but somehow it turned into they're sending us. Well, guess what? Venezuela is physically sending us their criminals.
They empty their jails.
Exactly.
They empty their jails.
So Castro did it with Cuba. He's like, you know what? Let's get the turds of our society out of here. We're going to go back to having an awesome country of puppets that will work for us. And that's exactly what all this is doing. So we're getting the outcasts of those other societies. And I'm not saying they can't be rehabilitated, but they've gone from being an outcast within their society to now they're a second-class outcast citizen here. What's that going to do? I mean, they physically have that CBP One app. You go to the CBP One app. This is your new appointment. No longer do you have to sit in front of an official. So at some point, the federal government, our tax dollars, physically gives you an airplane ride. Here's the best part. We have a decline on the Rio Grande because they're getting a physical airline ticket to go from here to Miami, Florida. And
well, they claim, and two, they claim they're not here illegally. That's right, because you have the app saying, "Oh yeah, come on."
Yeah, and what is our number one? What is our number one problem with child porn and things like that? Nobody ever verifies who's watching, who's uploading the pornography that we had up in Plainview ISD with a 6-year-old girl that forced a sex act on her. It was because other 6-year-olds had daddy's phone. And so had people known that Daddy's phone was being their porn was being watched, well, that porn site probably would have said, "Oh, click here if you're 18 or over." Well, we don't know who's on the other end of that CBP1 app in Mexico. All we know is they're getting on an airplane in Mexico and or Guatemala or Honduras, and they're flying to Miami, and now they're no longer coming across our border, so they're not being counted as illegal. But again, here they go. They're dumping that on the DeSantis governorship over there. They're dumping that on the Florida Patriots that are actually physically passing the laws, why our Texas legislature is not. And bottom line is the state has the ability to do things when the federal government gives it up. The fact that Mayorkas has not been impeached yet, the fact that Mayorkas is not sitting in the same chains that he is putting these people in when they're illegally coming over here and working for all these people up north. Yes, up north and on the East Coast. You know, these good Democrat states that want to give to everyone, they need their slaves. And Mayorkas has opened up the door so that they could get them. This is how they get them.
Well, yes,
Well,
that
and
they
you
do
know-
need them, but the problem is that they weren't expecting them, so they don't know what to do with them. So if we could just keep them here in Texas, and they could get there on their own, that would be that would be better for everyone, I think. Except
Well,
Texas. But that's
and
fine.
we recognize if you look at the official statistics, and just start with the official statistics, there have been over 6.2 million illegal aliens come to the United States. And then they say there are only 1.5 million gotaways. And I think that number is grossly inaccurate.
That's a joke number. Yeah.
That's a joke number. So, but just assume that those are exact. They're down to the decimal point. They are perfect. That is the size of the third largest county in the United States. Harris County is 4.7 million people. We've had more people come into the United States than our third largest community in the United States. That is insane. And we can't tell you where they are. Now, I know that there are going to be folks who say, "Oh, no, we know exactly where they are because we made them pinky promise with that CBP1 app that we would know where they are." So I would suggest, I'm just going to throw this out there, that if you know the Border Patrol is tracking you by your phone, that you might actually set that phone down and not carry it with you anymore.
What? They wouldn't do that, John.
Oh,
They're upstanding citizens. Well, not so. They're.
Well,
Now,
I'll say there are probably some folks that have come this way that are wonderful people.
Yes.
They're good people.
I'm sure
They
there's
really,
some
truly
here.
are legitimately
Legitimate.
running from something terrible, and we want to help them.
So they should not be made into propaganda. They should be made into American citizens or into guest residents or guest workers like the rest of them are.
Right. But
They should have that chance.
But Walter,
just
this
made a
is so
miss.
broken, and they don't have time for that.
Yep.
Unfortunately.
Yeah,
But I mean, that's where it does go back to an immigration issue, because our immigration system is overtaxed, and this situation that's happening right now is not helping them fix that system.
No, it's not at all. And what we're doing is just restocking a cheap labor pool that they'll never really know what freedom is.
Right.
We are putting children and we're putting the weak at risk. Just expand it. The weak, we're putting them at risk, allowing them to be abused. And people don't understand necessarily that once they cross the border and they're in the United States, that they've escaped the clutches of the cartel. The cartel may say it'll cost you $10,000 to get across the border. We're going to get you to San Antonio. And from San Antonio, you're free to go anywhere you want. But a year from now, the cartel may knock on that door again and say, "Hey, by the way, remember when we told you it was only going to be 10,000? Well, actually, we want a little bit more, or we're going to kill your cousin in Mexico, or we're going to kill your cousin down in Guatemala, or we're going to find your child and torment them, torture them, sell them into slavery." And let's not forget that our federal government admits it has lost its ability to track thousands upon thousands of children. Thousands upon thousands of children. We have no idea where they are.
Hundreds of thousands.
Well, they can start by looking at General Mills.
Well, a few years ago, Congress was shocked. I say shocked to learn that children were working in a meat packing factory. where children are not supposed to be, period. And there were thousands of illegal children.
At night.
I'm
Where's
sure.
OSHA now?
But you know what? You're a terrible person for saying that they shouldn't do that, right? That's what we hear every day, that we're terrible people. I love Texas. I love the United States. This is the land of the free and the home of the brave. This is the land of the greatest opportunity in the world. I want everyone that comes to the United States legally to have every opportunity that the three of us could possibly ever have. And if we let them come illegally, we have denied them that from the beginning. That is the humanitarian crisis. That's immoral. It's unconscionable to rob them of that potential for liberty. And I'm just disgusted that so many.
Well, you couldn't have said it any better, and I can't think of a better way to end the show. So, Dr. Spires, thank you as always for being on the show. We truly appreciate it. Guys, I hope you've enjoyed your short week. Now you have the weekend to recover, because come Monday, it'll be a regular old boring work week. But don't worry, we'll brighten your day with some Texas Fully Loaded. We'll see y'all later. Have a great weekend. Bye.
Adios, everybody.